So if you are a parent, you are probably gonna want to listen to this. I spent a lot of my graduate years studying applied behavioral analysis. So this is behavior techniques that you use to change behavior. Okay. Now let me explain a little bit to you that in psychology we have different areas of focus. In behavioral, developmental, cognitive, physiological, psychodynamic, they're all different. They all deal with different parts of the human experience. The one thing though that you have to take into account is that a behaviorist does not take into account any cognitive factors. A cognitive psychologist does not take into account developmental factors. Developmental psychologist does not take into account psychodynamic factors. Okay, so in learning this study, I have realized that they are missing out on a whole heck of a lot of area of a child and their development. I mean, okay, so B.F. Skinner was a famous behavioralist, and he did a lot of his studies on rats. So he did, press a lever, get a treat, or, if he wanted to keep, the rat from that side of the cage, he would just shock him. And basically we learn through operant conditioning, classical conditioning. Okay. We have been classical conditioned. We have been operantly conditioned our entire lives. So the problem now, though, as we get older and we're starting to realize that we have all these problems, these mental issues or these behaviors, and we don't understand why. All right. It's because the behavioralist perspective doesn't take into account any developmental factors. They don't take into account the cognitive psychology of a child. Okay, let's think about, we're animals, right? Let's think about lions and go back to hunter-gatherer and where we lived in groups of people, okay? Now, what did the children do? The children spent a majority of their time around the adults, right? The children learned from the adults. The children played, and they definitely played with each other and all the other kids in the group, just like cubs do and stuff. They play, they wrestle, they have fun, but they do it under the supervision of the adults. Okay, because the adults in a child's life, they are their role models. Okay, they have a certain section in their brain that is dedicated to feeling loved and feeling accepted. And a child wants nothing more than to be loved and accepted and to learn from an adult. Okay, so, we unfortunately live in a society now where we don't have time, or we don't give ourselves the time. We don't give our children the time. Children are disposable, unfortunately. We throw something in front of them to keep them quiet. You know how many parents would just put their own phone in front of their children at the dinner table when I used to work at restaurants just to keep them quiet. The child was barely even there or even present. And you know what? In the past, before I realized this, I have definitely been one to do that. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. If one of my kids was screaming and put on their favorite show, I get it. But we have to, we're trying to parent like we were parented, and that is not the right way. Okay, my kids want me to be around them. They want me to create activities with them, and they want that. And the only thing that I could think of in the beginning was, when I was a child, my mom just sent us outside, and she just locked the doors and said, no, she didn't really lock the doors, but don't come back until dinner time or you have to pee. We were out exploring on our own, and we thought that was great and that was grand, and it may have been easy behavior in the past, but think about this. A child growing up is looking for those bonds with adults. Okay, it takes a village, not just one adult, not just two adults, 3 or 4 or 5 adults. Okay, that's why, yes, 2 parents are better than 1. Unfortunately, 3 are better than 2. Okay, a whole family of adults that are in children's lives, that is great. Now, if that is non-existent in a child's life, a child has to survive somehow, and the only thing that they can do is look to their peer group. Okay, so if you are stuck in a situation right now and you say to yourself, my child is getting in with the wrong kids, with the wrong crowd, what do I do? You don't have a relationship with your child. Your child had been forced to find that in their peers. Forced. Because when given the choice, they will go with the adults. Okay? That's survival. They will go with the adults. It's instinct. Okay. So, I mean, you cannot get upset at your child if they are a teenager and that they are reliant and dependent on their peers for a lot of their advice, for a lot of their comfort, okay? It's because you weren't present. You weren't present when you should have been. Now, I will say that, I mean, there is an age, I'll say up to maybe 7 years old. You know, after 7, if you don't parent that way in the beginning, after 7 years old, there is some catching up that you're going to have to do. There might be some behavioral problems that you're going to have to work on. But I think the main focus of this, you know, parents, they ask me all the time, how do I change my kids' behavior? How do I get my kids to do this? How do I get my kids to do their homework? Whatever it is. Oh. Ambulance just went by me and it had the number 22 on it. That's a sign. Anyway, behavior is not one-sided. I know what I was saying, that parents contact me and they'll say, how do I get my kids to clean their room? How do I get my kids to listen? How do I get my kid to stop peeing in his pants when he is 8 years old? Okay. Now, it's not just behavior-based. Okay. B.F. Skinner had said one time in history, give me a child, give me an infant, and I can make him into anything you want. What does that say? That we are that moldable through behavior. But what does that do to our development? What does that do to our psyche, to our attachment, to our confidence? What does that do to us? Like, we are just figuring that out now because this group of people, me, you, everyone watching this, you know, we are a little bit more aware and open to how our behavior is affecting us and it is affecting our children. We need to listen to our children. Okay, there was a time where I was like, why can't you guys go play on your own? But then I thought, they just want that comfort. They just want that attachment. And it doesn't even need to be vocal. You don't need to sit there and talk to them while you're doing it. You don't even need to participate. You just need to be there. Okay? I love you guys. I'm alone right now in my car. I get to talk about adult stuff. This is so great. And it's great that you guys stood and watched this for 7.5 minutes.